Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tori if you're new here, and today I am showing you some meals that you can make when you lose power. So this could be an emergency situation, this could be a time where you just want to save some money and cook in the outdoors. There are so many different ways to go about this. So we are going to start out with things that you might need to have on hand when you are cooking these meals without power. I do have to stop and say hi, hello, my name is Tori. I run Mountain Mama Living. We do prepared life on a budget here on the channel and would love to have you part of our YouTube family. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and like this video if you enjoy it. I have plenty of other videos like this, all linked in my emergency preparedness playlist. First things first, I am going to start out with some things that I personally have on hand for the family in the event of a power outage. And believe it or not, here in northern Colorado, we are a little bit east, so we lose power quite a bit due to high winds and different weather-related issues. So sometimes we do need to cook without power. It's not necessarily for an extended period of time, but I think that's an important thing to keep in the back of your mind. It is possible in the future that we may be losing power for an extended period of time, and I think it's important to know that you can still cook from home. I get comments about losing power, and in that event they would go to a fast food restaurant and feed their family. Well, please know that when the grid goes down, those fast food restaurants will probably shut down too. I'm 99% sure. They may have a backup generator, but it could be possible that those places will just completely shut down. So I think it's important to have some foods on hand that you can cook at home. And some of these foods don't even need to be cooked. They are easy protein sources that will keep you satiated throughout the day. So number one, I keep waterproof matches on hand. I think that is super important, and you need to find some sort of kindling. And this is for an outdoor fire pit situation. We have one of those just for entertainment, but we like to cook on it from time to time. I will insert some photos right here. We love this thing. It's fun to just have a nice fire with a family, but it is possible to use that for recipes throughout the day in the event of a power outage. So when we're talking about fire pit meals and ways to cook over the fire, there are many different ways to do it. I grew up camping every week or weekend with my family, and it was just a really great time, and I learned a lot. So I am utilizing that knowledge in this video today. My husband was also an Eagle Scout, so I am lucky to have his knowledge as well. I wouldn't say we are experts, but we have some fun recipes from our past that we like to bring in. So first things first is a foil packet meal. That is when you put food in a foil packet, fold it up, stick it in the embers of a fire, and it will cook for you. So I have a few recipes involving that. My family's favorite was fresh caught trout. My dad would fillet them, taught me how to fillet them, and then he would put that in a foil packet with some butter and onions and maybe a potato or a carrot, and we would cook it and eat it. That was really tasty. Sometimes he had those lemon juice packets, and we would just put that on there. That is if you are next to a river and can access some trout or some fresh salmon or something like that, depending on what body of water you're next to. I get not everyone has that available to them. And then another protein source, I'm gonna throw this in here, would be some sort of ground beef. So you just like form it into a patty. We grew up on ground venison, so form it into a patty, same concept. We would do potatoes, onions, carrots, throw that in a foil packet, and then put that in the fire. So that is if you have access to maybe your outdoor freezer, which you would have access to for a little bit of time, or perhaps your house has a generator and it's keeping your refrigerator alive. So I did want to throw those in there just in case you were looking for some recipes that you can take from your fridge and have some fresh meat on the table for your family. And then another option for foil packet meals is to just keep canned versions of those items. You could keep canned trout, canned sardines, canned tuna, canned beef, and then canned vegetable soup. Put that in a foil packet and let that boil up. I wouldn't do it that way if I were to have those ingredients, but if you only have foil to cook in, that's totally fine. My weapon of choice when it comes to cooking on a fire pit is gonna be cast iron. I love cast cast iron. I love cooking in cast iron. I've been doing it since I was a kid. And fun fact, I'm anemic and it really helps to cook in cast iron. So what you do is put a grate right over that fire, and then you would put your cast iron in it. I've seen people just put their cast iron skillet directly into the embers. That works too. It might heat it up a little quicker than normal, so you might have to stir it a bit. But when it comes to those type of meals, I have a different setup. So I have a few things laid out here, and I will tell you about those meals when we get to the food portions. I have about 5 or 6 meals here that are my go-tos when we lose power. Another classic in a fire pit is your typical roasters, so hot dogs and marshmallows. Again, those are if you have access to some fresh items, but I wanted to throw that in there just in case someone was thinking it and needed me to say it. So that is why I said that. My favorite growing up and my husband's were mountain pies or moon pies, and you can find these at Walmart's. I always find them at a thrift store. They're essentially cast iron and they fold over. They're in the shape of a sandwich, but there's different shapes you can get. And what you do is just rotate it into the fire. So you put a piece of bread on each side and maybe put some pizza sauce and cheese in there. That's an option. Perhaps you don't have access to fresh cheese, just use your classic Velveeta in there. My dad would make danishes and turnovers with some shelf-stable pie crust. That was always a fun thing to do. Sometimes we would put chocolate in there. All of these items are super tasty, but they may not be that satiating. So what he would do is make little empanadas, and you can do that with bread. You could do that with that shelf-stable crust, and he would put that canned meat in there or some canned chipped beef and potatoes and beans, and then he would fold it over and it would become this handheld pocket. So mountain pies, moon pies, let me know what you call them. Those are one of my favorites to cook over the fire. I'm sure there are many more, but we are moving on to something simple that a lot of people have, and that is a gas stove. So you can use some propane there, and you can use that with a grill. They have Blackstones where you can use it as a cooktop. This is more of an expensive version in my opinion, just because you do have to keep propane on hand, and you do have to have that, grilling apparatus. So that is another option that would just be like cooking outside. Another one that my family actually doesn't have is a sauna oven, and I think that would work in warmer climates. I'm not really sure how to use it, but I am throwing that in this list, and in the description box I'm going to list out all of these ideas for you just in case it gets lost in the shuffle of me talking. Another option I have is the 4 Patriots camp stove, and I will insert a photo here, and I can list it down in the description box. It was a gift to me. It is relatively inexpensive, but it is a stainless steel little stove. It's just about this big. It's a camp stove, and you put kindling in there and just get a fire started. Put your camp pot on there. It can be cast iron. It can hold the cast iron. I would just be careful with it, but that fire burns for an hour, hour and a half, and we use MREs with those, but you can use really anything. You can cook Easy Mac in there, just throw some water that you may have set aside in your prepper pantry and some pasta noodles and go that route if you wanted to, but that thing packs a punch. It's just so small, and you only have to start the fire once, maybe blow on it a few times to keep it going, but it cooks those meals super quickly. And I will say it cooks the MREs a little bit quicker, but you can cook anything in there, like I said. And those are my 4 options. Let me know any that I have forgotten in the comments down below. The comments are always so helpful, so never be afraid to share your opinion down there. If it's a positive contribution to the conversation, we love that. So go ahead and let me know if I forgot anything down in the comments below. Now, meal ideas. These are just a few. Again, if you're new here, check out my emergency preparedness playlist. I have a ton of recipes. I have a recipe playlist. I have a budget-friendly recipe playlist, extreme meal challenges, and those are shelf-stable ingredients that are on the cheap that will fill up your family. So if you're ever curious about these exact recipes, definitely check that out. Number 1, my son's favorite, shelf-stable potato gnocchi. If you are new here, I did a video on this, and I got this at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. So you put this in the pot with 2 cups of water or broth, whatever you have on hand. We can our chicken and beef broth, so we have shelf-stable broths. Some people don't. I keep mine in glass, obviously, because we can them. If you keep them in a carton, just store them in a cool and dark area, just like you would canning, but that's an option. If you don't have broth though, or stock, water works just as well. Next, you're gonna put in 1 can of tomato sauce. Again, got this at the Dollar Tree recently, but you can put in whatever tomato sauce you want. And then just for a bump up of protein, I put chickpeas in mine, and it's very tasty. I smash up the chickpeas a little bit and throw that in there. It's 3 simple ingredients, and it just is so flavorful. If you save little Parmesan packets from your local pizza place, I always save all the extra condiments we get at fast food places and restaurants, and keep it in the prepper pantry just in case we need something like that. So you can sprinkle that on there, but it's not necessary. It's fine as is. And if you have some shelf-stable butter like ghee, or maybe some coconut oil with butter flavoring, that's a good thing to throw in there. Some salt and pepper, and you're good to go. You're just gonna bring that up to a simmer. A lot of these meals I, again, cook on cast iron in the fire pit. It's my favorite way to feed my family, just because I can make a ton of it. So that's an option. If you don't wanna do chickpeas, do a can of chicken, do a can of beef, can of tuna is in there. You will hear that a lot with these recipes, but I did want to make that known that these are very adaptable to whatever flavor you like. So this one is gonna be my favorite and literally the easiest. You're gonna need 1 can of Amy's organic black bean chili. Any chili would work, but the black bean chili works the best in my opinion. And then you're gonna also need 1 can of water. So I just rinse it out. And then you're going to need the La Moderna pasta noodles. These are 33 cents at Walmart. If you have more in your family, or if you're hungrier than me, do a box pasta of sorts, but these are super cheap and they pack a punch. I feel like they grow bigger than regular macaroni noodles. I don't know why, but I feel like they do. That is essentially 2 ingredients, and there's just so much flavor, and it is so filling. Maybe you have a root cellar, you can put some sweet potatoes in there, or regular potatoes, to really bulk it up, but that one is my favorite. Moving on down the line to my daughter's favorite, we are doing some shelf-stable tortellini. We have the 3 cheese here. And because there's cheese in this, this isn't like the best item to keep in your prepper pantry, but it will last up to 2 years according to the expiration if you care about that kind of thing. We really love these. There's ricotta in there. And then what you're gonna need is half a can of pumpkin, or if you don't wanna really save a half can of pumpkin, just throw the whole thing in there. And then you're gonna need a can of water, or you could do a can of dry milk or shelf-stable milk. You could do coconut milk if you wanted to, really anything. And you just cook that up until it's soft. I don't really have times here for you because I don't know your elements. I don't know what you're cooking on. I don't know where you are in the world, and I don't know your weather. So just cook until your pasta or rice or whatever type of bulk item that you have in there is soft and it tastes good to you. That one is another 2 ingredient one. My daughter loves pumpkin. If you can grow pumpkin in abundance, I suggest freezing your puree or maybe canning it. I've even in the past, when we didn't have our own garden, asked the neighbors if we could have their old pumpkins, because a lot of people throw out those pumpkins. So if you're in the neighborly mood, you could go and ask your neighbor for their pumpkins during that spooky season and see if they let you have them. Most of them will, depending on your neighbors. Moving on, this is my, I guess, dad's recipe, but Grant, shout out to you. You suggested this and it just clicked in my mind. I'm like, I've had this before. So the Barilla pasta, we got these the other day at Dollar Tree. I've never had them before, but my dad used to make pasta salad with tuna growing up. So it's like a macaroni salad with mayo, and it has pickles, onions. He put bell pepper in there, and then he just put a can of tuna. I get the Wild Planet tuna, and I find it cheapest at Whole Foods, believe it or not. When it goes on sale, it goes for $1.50. You have to have the Prime app, so you're technically paying into Prime, but I think it pays off if you like I don't know, good quality ingredients. This is still harvested in, where is this one from? In Thailand. And I see a lot caught in Vietnam too. So if you have a good wild tuna company that makes canned tuna that's affordable, let me know. I'd love to support something in the United States. I just don't know the practices in Vietnam and Thailand when it comes to tuna fishing, or fishing in general. So that's just a little thing I'm throwing in there. But combine these two together, get some mayo packets from a restaurant, and they even have relish packets, and just make yourself a cold salad. These are fully cooked. There's no preservatives in them, so you are good to go. You can just make a cool salad if you're not wanting something warm, and that will get you by. I feel like you could even put some chickpeas in there, or maybe some olives, canned olives. That's always a good option. I love olives, especially now during my pregnancy journey. I cannot get enough of them. And then, trying to stay on topic here, I have 2 more meals for you. Next up is the Earthly Choice Great Day Burrito Bowl. I say these off of my flavor preference. You could just get, your typical microwavable rice if you wanted to. Throw this in your cast iron, but this one has the fire roasted corn, quinoa, and some spices in here. So there's a great amount of fiber in there, which is awesome, but not necessary. And it has beans and brown rice, but to give it some extra flavor, I throw in lentil veggies. Now, you don't need any extra water with this recipe, but I think this is very tasty. I get the Amy's light in sodium, and I really enjoy this. And I find mine at King Soopers. They are usually 2 for $4 or something like that. It even says on the can not to add water, but when you are combining it, I could understand why you would think to add water. This rice in this specific Earthly Choice brand actually is cooked pretty well. So if you're using like an Uncle Ben's microwavable rice, you might want to add some water. But I have found that I need to add oil to this. So always have some avocado oil or coconut oil or olive oil on hand. Olive oil's great to have, and it's cheaper than all of those items. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. But this one's really flavorful. You could even throw a can of salsa in there instead. Burrito bowls are a great thing that are shelf stable and easy to cook outside. Now, again, coming in with that grill or Blackstone, if you have one of those things, it might be easy to do rice like a hibachi style and make like a sushi bowl. That would be very yummy, but it's totally up to you. And then last but not least, my husband's favorite, and that is going to be the Hungry Jack au gratin potatoes. And you're going to cook this to what it says on the back. So you're going to need water, you're going to need butter. So use your shelf-stable butter. If you don't have that, use olive oil, and then you're going to use some milk. So use your shelf-stable milk in the event of an emergency. Your dry milk just mixes with water. You could use that whole milk that we found at the Dollar Tree the other day, but cook it to the directions. And then you're going to add this 88-cent can of pork and beans and tomato sauce from Great Value. So this is from Walmart. We have a ton of these because my husband loves these. I think he used to take them snowboarding with him, is my understanding. And I'm pretty sure him and his friends would just eat them right out of the can. That's not what I would do, but you can totally do that. I would just put a can of chickpeas in there, or maybe some carrots, and make it into like a scalloped potato casserole. Chicken would be good in there. I've even layered it and made it into a shepherd's pie of sorts with some corned chip beef that comes in the can on the bottom, mixed with some peas. Layer that potato on top, and then you could even whip up some cornbread if you have a cover for your cast iron. There are just so many options out there when it comes to cooking outdoors. I absolutely love coming up with new recipes when it comes to that kind of thing. We used to camp a lot. Now with 2 kids, we don't do it as much. I'd love to go camping every weekend, but that was one of my favorite things to do, come up with a menu. I get that from my dad. He is in charge of all the camp menus continues. He still actively camps with family and friends, and I know he makes some killer meals. So I'm always asking him for ideas. If you want more meals like this, let me know. He is just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to recipes, especially outdoor recipes. I was fortunate enough to grow up with that knowledge, and I'm hoping to pass that on to my kids as well as you as a YouTube community. But I like to learn from you too. So let me know some of those recipes that you like to cook in the event of a power outage, or maybe some camp recipes that you like to do. And don't forget to let me know if there is another way to cook outside that I am forgetting. I'm going to wrap up the video here. Stay tuned because there was a vote on my community tab and it was 50-50. It was either Great Depression era meals, and I wanted to put depression meals, but I didn't want you to think it's meals that you cook when you're depressed, so that's why it was titled that. And I have a bunch of those. I have my great-great-grandmother's cookbook, and I have a lot of recipes out of there. I still cook a lot of those recipes, so I really enjoy sharing that. And I will warn you, there are some odd ones in there, but they are not to be feared. They are actually really tasty. It just has some ingredients that you wouldn't think to use. And then it was meals without power. So that's the one that we did today, but we have the Great Depression era meals coming up. And then we have emergency water storage. And I am happy to announce, for those of you that have missed vlogs and other different content on this channel, I've actually created a second channel. I will be uploading on there in a little bit, but I will leave that link down below. It is just my name, Tori Patton. Tori is with a Y in case anyone was wondering. I've never been offended if someone spelled my name wrong. I just thought I'd let you know, but I will link that down in the description box. It kind of goes over a brief explanation as to why I started a second channel. I will still be posting on this channel the same amount, if not more, than I normally do, and then over there I will post 2 to 3 times a week. But I'm excited for the journey, and that was the great announcement. So stay tuned for some content on that channel as well. Thank you so much for sitting here and chatting with me tonight. As always, stay adventurous, stay creative, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye, y'all.